Hey friends, welcome back. I am Jason, and typically my channel is about survival, preparedness, and preparing for certain disasters that might occur. But lately, as of late, very unfortunately, an opportunity has presented itself to feature a lot of content in a disaster area such as North Carolina, where Hurricane Helene has just wreaked havoc and destroyed everything in its path, especially if you are in some sort of valley or lowland area. A lot of questions have been popping up with the footage that I've been putting out. A lot of concerns, a lot of misinformation and disinformation. A lot of rumors have been spreading around about what's been going on up there. And what I'd like to do right now is just give you my perspective, what I've seen with my own two eyes, and eliminate some of those rumors perhaps and some of that misinformation. First things first, I'm not an expert on any of this stuff. I'm just going to give you my point of view, my perspective, the things that I saw with my own two eyes. Now, some of these places that I've been in are completely wiped off the map. Some of these small little towns, churches, homes, if they were in the path of these giant walls of water that were flowing through the area, a lot of them have been very unfortunately erased. Are they going to be rebuilt? A lot of them, yes. A lot of them, no. It just depends on where they are. So we spoke, for example, we spoke to somebody with the Department of Transportation. And what they do is they go in and they kind of identify places that the roads can be rebuilt easily and continue on like they always have. And then sometimes they go in and they say, okay, well, this road can no longer be here because, I mean, legitimately, I'm not overstating this. I'm saying that maps are going to have to be redrawn because the rivers have changed routes. They're literally flowing through people's properties now. The river has changed its course from this way to this way. We were driving through people's lawns, for example, to get around where the roads were completely erased. And that road is not going to be put back in its same position as it was before. So something like eminent domain is probably going to take over in a lot of these situations because that road is going to need to be rebuilt. And potentially these people's homes that are close to where the river now is, unfortunately a road might have to go through their property and their home might be taken away because of this. Is that for the greater good? Maybe, maybe not. You can let me know in the comment section what you think about that. But it is very unfortunate for those people that just barely escaped the disaster, just barely, and now potentially their properties will be taken over because the Department of Transportation, the roads are going to have to be rerouted.
So does the DOT come and assess the properties?
It's because if I bring a 20-man crew down here running heavy equipment with bulldozers and everything else, and that falls on them, I lose
Men.
20 guys.
You don't want that.
I'm worried about that, but like,
they have direct metal. You can see the metal there.
Yeah, I did see it there, but I didn't see it in other parts.
I'm trying to determine if I can effectively bring the army, and it's a matter of how much we can get through the road we came up here on. You know, you can't, once we get the path cleared, we get people access, we get everybody mobile again and part of civilization. Yeah, we can go and start, come back behind it, and we'll build a big old retaining wall here, and we'll do, there's a lot of big
projects. So y'all would do this first, retaining wall here, or clear, and then just to make sure y'all are safe there?
We'd either retaining wall it, or we'd take the house and all and re-slope the whole thing.
Wow.
But it'd probably be cheaper to retaining wall.
So with the retaining wall, you guys just don't even get access or permission, right, from the owner? Like that's
it would be eminent domain at that point.
Now, with that said, the government will provide compensation for this land that they're now taking from people. Is the compensation enough? Chances are probably not. That's just my opinion because, you know, what if you've lived on this land your entire life? You've inherited it from your parents and their parents and their parents before them, and it's not just a piece of property. It's your home, and now suddenly you're being bumped off of it because of this eminent domain, and that's, you know, the compensation may never be enough. It's invaluable. You can't put a price tag on something like that.
In eminent domain, they base it on fair market value.
Yeah.
You go ahead and tell
what is fair market value. Some homes, some properties will be deemed unsafe. And if it is deemed unsafe, it could basically mean that you can't rebuild your home. You can't go in there and rebuild your life the way it was before. And yeah, I mean, I understand their theory and their thinking behind this, but oftentimes, based on the conversation that we had with a representative of the DOT, is sometimes they deem properties unsafe, unlivable, because it's just more convenient to build a road through. And that is, you know, you can let me know how you feel about that in the comment section. Whether it's for the greater good or not, it's still somebody's home, it's somebody's property, and for a government agency to come in there and tell them that they can't live there anymore simply because a road needs to be rerouted through their property seems very unfortunate to me and unfair. So communications were a major problem in this situation. Cell phone towers were down, power was out, so most people's primary means of communications with the world were non-existent. If the power goes out, your internet goes down. If the cell phone towers go down, you can't make the calls, send the texts out. Yes, radios, a radio network in your area is an excellent backup plan, and they were pretty reliable to a certain degree. Range is always an issue, but there's ways around that if you set it up ahead of time. Now, a lot of these people had no warning that these floods were coming their way. A lot of these people were completely in the dark about this situation and the danger that was in the area. And if they caught wind of the danger in the area, the evacuation notices, oftentimes it was too late because the flooding was already occurring around them and it was too dangerous. And if you get caught in your car in one of these situations, we can put in some footage perhaps of what happens to a vehicle that got caught in these floods. It was utter destruction. The power of this water was out of control. It was insane. So yes, having a communications network set up, an alternative form of communications is what I mean. Having that set up ahead of time is going to be pretty important. And if you know that a large storm or some other disaster, whether it be natural or man-made disaster, is heading your way, you can get your communications set up ahead of time and possibly get the word out earlier and potentially save some lives.
Jason's channel is a preparedness, survival,
right here.
And him and his friends and the wives and the kids get together for training, events, and things like that, just to bring us all together to prepare for the worst situation, but always pray for the best and hope for the best. And there are so many people commenting, these people are idiots, they should have gotten out, they should have fled, they should have done this. But again, the cell phone towers were down.
You weren't there. You don't know what it was like in the middle of the night when it's pouring down rain and you have no communications with the world. What's going to happen? The waters came around these people and they couldn't leave. They had no idea that this was going to happen. And suddenly a ginormous wall, huge mountain of water comes their way and erases their homes off of the planet. It's pretty bad. It's really sad. And yeah, don't make comments like that. With that said, it wasn't safe to leave. The winds were crazy strong. Like, for example, let's say I'm in the bottomland here, which I am. My house is in the bottom. There's a creek right here. If that was to happen here, the water would raise really, really fast and definitely flood my house, but hopefully not erase my house, but it could. It definitely could. We could head to high ground to save ourselves and take the supplies that we can carry on our back and get ready to go. But the winds were crazy. We saw hillsides where the trees had just been mowed down. That would be a very dangerous place to be up on the hill right there. So leaving your home was not necessarily the safest choice either. And a lot of this stuff happened really, really fast, and people had to respond to it immediately or else. Some things that you can't prepare for. There's some things that you just can't.
All your prepping supplies are gone. Everything.
Yeah, it doesn't matter. Like I've mentioned before in other videos, it doesn't matter how many beans and bullets you have. It doesn't matter sometimes how much you prepare. If the storm comes and it's strong enough, sometimes there's nothing you can do.
But build your community. That's number one as preparedness.
Yeah, but having a community that you can rely upon, the people in your area that you can rely upon, the people that you know that you can trust because you've worked with them hand in hand before such an event like this, is going to be a really big deal, because those are the people that are going to help you pick up the pieces. It's not going to be the government. It's not going to be these large institutions per se. It's going to be your neighbors. It's going to be your friends. It's going to be your tight-knit small community. And the tighter you guys are, the closer you guys are, the better you work together, the continuity, the more streamlined you can make these processes, the easier things will be as you begin the rebuild process. Radios, inexpensive Baofeng radios were very important and very useful in this situation when your cell phones were no longer working. Once we had generators up and running and stuff, we could set up Starlink. Starlink was pretty helpful, like really helpful actually, because with generator power, we could get the Starlinks working, and now we suddenly have the internet. We could send text messages, we could make calls, we could do all of the things, and that was really, really beneficial. So having some of those units around, I think, would be really helpful as well. FEMA, it seems like people love it or they hate it. I can tell you what my personal experience is with FEMA, and I can tell you what is confirmed after looking up some of this information, and then you can do your own research to figure out the truth. FEMA is offering a $750 grant to families to help support them in the immediate. They're giving $750 to people so they can buy food and supplies and so forth and so on. And then after that, they're going to be offering loans to people to help rebuild and such things like that. FEMA is not boots on the ground. They're not out there helping people digging the mud out of people's buildings. They're not doing that stuff. I didn't see any of that. I actually saw very little of FEMA in general, almost zero. Is FEMA there confiscating people's supplies and taking their fuel and stealing stuff from people that are there to volunteer to help? I saw none of that. I did not witness any of that with my eyes. We've heard lots of stories about that, but I have not seen any of that. Now, the place that we were in, Badin, North Carolina, very small community, we're set up a hub, a base of operations at a community center there. And what happened there was FEMA came in and they said, hey, we would like to offer assistance. We'd like to set up base here, and the community basically voted them out. So in this community center, the community basically came together and they voted FEMA out. They said, we do not want FEMA's help here, and they pushed them out. They did, however, have a FEMA station. If someone wanted to sign up for FEMA's aid, they allowed people to come in and have a representative from FEMA take in their information, and they could take the aid. So it wasn't just like they, completely voted them out, and they didn't allow them to come in and help individuals that really, really wanted it. They just didn't want FEMA setting up a base on their landing zone and housing 100, 200, 300 people, and getting in the way and taking over that area.
So, overriding all of what they've been doing, all the successes that they've had.
So FEMA did drop off a shower unit. It's basically a big trailer with, I don't know, say 5 or 6 showers on it. They dropped it off right next door to us in the middle of the night, and they locked the doors. So you can't even use the thing. They just dropped it off in this parking lot at the Dollar General right next to where we were set up, and then just abandoned it. I don't know what the purpose of that was. Maybe they just needed a place to store it temporarily until they figured out where they're going to actually put it. I don't know. But it was kind of weird that they did that. Again, I did not see FEMA confiscating anything. We freely went in and out of places as long as, roads were as long as you could get through a road to some degree. I mean, even if they were really, really rough and eroded and dangerous, we never got stopped or blocked by anyone saying, hey, turn around, you can't come through this area. I never saw that. I never witnessed that. There were some roads blocked off just for simply safety reasons, but we oftentimes just kind of ignored those signs, to be honest with you. So we went where we wanted to go. No government agency stopped us or turned us around or confiscated our supplies that we were carrying. We hauled gallons and gallons and gallons of fuel to and fro to places, isolated places that didn't have fuel for generators and such like that. We never had an issue, never had anything confiscated, and we were in some of these places that the rumors were going around saying that was happening. So in a lot of the areas, all of the areas actually that I was in, there was a lack of leadership. And one of my primary roles was to take...
How many guys? 2. Okay. We'll try to pair you up with 2 more guys if we send you out. Yeah. Just in case something interesting happens.
Roger that.
We're standing by to stand by.
Yep. We are... the lady that was sending me all this good stuff?
Phone's going nuts right now. Show signal, but it's a lie.
On leadership and become a centralized hub of information coming in and supplies going out. And we did have a couple of people that we sent out down certain roads to certain locations saying that they got turned around. You know, the road was completely blocked off and there was someone standing there in some sort of uniform with a radio saying you cannot come this way, and they turned them around. And it's most likely because the roads were just completely gone. Like no road at all existed anymore. That's most likely the situation. It wasn't really, you know, this is our area, this is our turf, we don't want you here, we've taken over this zone. I did not experience that personally. Did that stuff happen? Perhaps, but I did not experience that personally. Another rumor that's going around, are people eating their pets? Are people starving, and are they eating their dogs and their cats? No, that's not the situation going on there at all. I mean, I guess maybe somebody thought it would be a good idea to eat their pet, but I did not see this. This is not what's going on. There has been a ginormous influx of supplies and volunteers to these areas. All of the places that I've been to do not have a supply shortage. What they have is a space and storage shortage for these supplies. That's become a problem. A lot of places are having to get really creative. We're getting huge tents dropped in by helicopters from National Guard and such, giant big military tents to store these supplies, because otherwise they're just going to be left out in the elements and they're going to be ruined. So yes, people are not eating their dogs and cats. That's not a thing. I mean, dog food, for example, we've gotten tons and tons of dog food delivered to these areas, and we just don't have a place to put it. And that has become the problem. It's not that people are starving. No one's starving. If they're starving, no one's starving in this location that I know of.
Unless it's self-inflicted.
Yeah. I don't know why someone would be starving in this situation. People are getting the supplies that they need for the most part, with very few exceptions. Everyone in the affected area of this storm is getting the necessary supplies and equipment and stuff that they need. Are they comfortable? Absolutely not. A lot of people are you know, damaged to their homes, and their basements or whatever have been flooded, and lots of problems. But that's going to take a long time to rebuild, to get this stuff cleaned up. Now, will there be a supply
I think it's right here
in the future? Perhaps. Possibly. I think very likely that people will still continue to need supplies flowing in. Do they need them right now? Not from what I understand, not from what I've seen. All the places that I've been to have been overwhelmed with a influx of supplies coming in. So don't forget about them. Don't lose touch with these contacts and these people that you've been in touch with, sending supplies their way, because they very likely will run short on certain supplies. Maybe not everything just in bulk in general, but perhaps they might say, hey, you know, I'm out of propane. I could really use a shipment of propane in here. And then we could send those specific supplies to a specific location, and they can get to where they need to go. Looting and theft is another thing that's been going around a lot. There's rampant looting and theft. It's like the crazy Wild West. And while, yes, it is a little bit like the Wild West, because emergency units, response units, police officers, they're busy doing a lot of things, and there's very little rule of law in a lot of these places. But the looting and theft, from my experience, has been very minimal.
Down or no? That are going to Mike.